It is so funny to think that a mere few console generations ago, if you asked me, hey Andrew, what console platform do you think this is too much for? This is too spicy. My gosh, look at that. They're too cute. That is way too much, way too provocative. Which platform do you think I would name? I would have named Nintendo. It's gotta be a Nintendo platform. They were always so strict back then. There was a very family-friendly console. But then we went forward a generation and it went into Sony being like super strict. And then suddenly Nintendo was allowing a lot of stuff that Sony wasn't allowing now. And it was like, why are things changing this way? But amongst all these generations and up until now, there's always been an understanding that PC was a platform to really go to for the true uncensored experience. Like that is a place where you won't have like light bars, you can get patches and whatnot. That's the place to go to. And yes, the go-to place for that, experience on the PC platform was always Steam. Steam is like essentially like your console software for the, PC platform that you go to for all of your game purchases. It does all the downloads, all the uploads, updates, everything for you. But now, unfortunately, Steam has becoming like Nintendo back in the day, and it's crazy. But yes, for those that missed the news, this particular game right here, Lover Kiss Endless Memories, has been pretty much deleted from the Steam platform. It was too much for that platform, just a mere month away from its release. But funnily enough, it's still releasing on, yes, you guessed it, Switch. So what could possibly be in this game that is too much for Steam that Nintendo, the family-friendly Nintendo, is perfectly fine with? It's absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, yes, we all come to the understanding that it's probably to do with this whole situation that's been happening recently with Steam. They're censoring a lot of stuff off their platform. But let's actually get into the announcement from the game company. They said, to all eagerly awaiting the release of Lover Kiss Endless Memories, currently the Steam version store page is not viewable. Due to various circumstances, it has become difficult to release on the Steam platform. However, we are preparing to deliver the PC version on a different platform. This is what I keep saying, and it's like that whole thing of like, Steam, you don't know what you're doing. You're losing sales. You're bending the knee to this payment processors, and thus these sales are going somewhere else. And I would imagine, thankfully, due to this whole situation, it's probably gonna get more sales now because, like for me, I didn't even know this game exists, and I almost want to buy it now. If it's too much for Steam, I almost want to buy it now. Anyways, as soon as the details are finalized, we will formally announce it. So we kindly ask for your patience in awaiting further updates. We will continue to strive to meet everyone's expectations, so please continue to look forward to Lover Kiss Endless Memories. This sucks. Now, this doesn't really tell us much. Let me be perfectly honest. This doesn't tell us much. I can say that it's funny that for some reason, this game back here, which looks pretty innocent to me, this game back here being too much for Steam, but it's not too much for Switch, the assumption there could be that the Switch version has censorship. It could have essentially upskirt blocks. It could have a lot of things the PC version was not going to have. For those who don't know what an upskirt block is, essentially if the camera angles at a certain point, we're getting right here, a camera angles at a certain point, if it deems that you possibly could see up the skirt, it puts a block up on the screen. Or they can have all the characters literally wearing like black shorts underneath everything they're wearing. It could be something like that. But this is something that is not new. That's the problem. This is something that is not new. There's so many creators in Japan that are dealing with the same issue. They're trying to contact Steam, trying to get a version approved on Steam, and whoever they're working with is not working with them nicely. I mean, there was a while back, and I wanted to cover this, but there was a while back there was an interview with Shimokawa. And Shimokawa was talking about when they were trying to release White Album 2 on the platform, they had a lot of issues. I've heard that the standards vary depending on person in charge of the review, so it's quite difficult. And Shimokawa said, I totally get that. The illustrations for Japanese Bishoujo characters can look young, and I feel the difference in standards between Japan and the rest of the world. It wasn't on Steam, but during the review process for the game we were making called White Album 2, Dream Communication, we were asked to revive the scene where the 3D character was dancing and her breasts were swaying. To revise it, they removed the bones from the 3D model. For those that don't know, like the 3D model itself has a skeletal structure that everything moves on. They removed what was essentially allowing that to animate. They physically removed its capability of moving. They removed it from the 3D model and requested a re-review, but they came back saying it's still swaying. And I was like, no way. There's no bones in it. It can't be swaying. literally mechanically can't do it, but they were still saying it was moving. Like, it's almost like they wanted to do that. But this is funny, and this is a funny story, but this literally encompasses what these people face. When I read this, I immediately thought of that interview and the statements made by so many other companies and developers online. They all say the same thing. They are so strict with Steam. And it's this back and forth between Japan's developers and whoever's working at Steam that's communicating with them, and they're being very, very strict about what they're allowing on the platform. All the way to the point that, yes, I'm guessing at some point this got removed. They were probably going through a review process, and at some point they said, no, you can't have it. They removed it from the platform. Now, this still could be on the back end. Like I said, they're saying that it's just the page has been removed. This could still be on the back end, just waiting some sort of approval, and they're pinning something, and hey, it's coming up a month away. We want to make sure that people aren't pre-ordering this or whatever. Let's get it off the site. It could be a possibility that this might still happen, but for now, this is kind of sad. Like, yeah, I guess technically, again, the assumption here is that the characters look young, and there's going to be some outfits here that are, a little bit spicy, and that's not wanted, and you're technically taking photos of the characters, and that's supposed to be inappropriate to them. But again, it goes back to the whole idea of, if it's not illegal, why isn't it allowed to be sold on the platform? This is too much for them. Don't date the teacher. Don't have the girl wear this leotard or whatever. That's a sad reality there. And it's crazy when you think about this developer has literally released Lollipop Chainsaw, and that was perfectly fine. Lollipop Chainsaw is raunchy as hell, dude. I'm sorry. Lollipop Chainsaw, it was perfectly fine, but cute girls, dressing up and having photos taken, too spicy. And to go back to what I said earlier, it's just so funny with how strict Steam is being. And Nintendo over here, Mr. Family Friendly, it's all there. You can literally buy it on Nintendo perfectly fine, no problems. It's almost laughable. Like, it is so hilarious that Steam has gone this far. And it's hard not to initially say this has something to do with what's going on with Steam and the payment processors and how strict they're being with this stuff, with the new guidelines they have for the standards of payment processors on their actual policy page. Now, yes, let me dial this back. Let me play the other side here for a little bit, because I like to do this. I don't like to immediately stay on one side and berate the other side and assume that whoever is creating this game is 100% gold. And again, the Switch version could technically have some sort of blocks for seeing upskirts or something like that maybe the Steam version wasn't going to have, and thus Steam said no. But it's hard not to assume this is the case when another game was taken off the Steam platform pretty much the same time, and that is Inner Truth. A Japanese developer making a game called The Inner Truth had their game removed from Steam pretty much the same time. And similar to that interview that I was talking about earlier with White Album, they had the same issues with rejections and resubmitting and reviews and all this kind of crap. They said after more than a month of rejections and resubmissions, the review process for the demo build was suddenly terminated. At the time, the demo app was flagged as banned and my access rights were revoked. However, the main game and the playtest were treated as separate apps, so I initially still had access to them. I submitted a playtest build and also opened a support ticket to ask if I could delete the old demo and create a new one. This was because the main game was linked to a disabled demo, and I could not unlink them on my own. However, even after more than a week, I received no response, and I sent several follow-ups. Then today, even the main game and playtest apps, which had not been banned, suddenly had their access rights revoked. There was no prior or follow-up notice, and I received no email or ticket response. After that, I requested an explanation again, but I still have not received a reply. Until now, responses had already taken considerable amount of time, but this time communication itself has become almost impossible. And again, another case similar to the other one. They're looking at other options, other sites they can go to or something, or completely starting over from scratch. This is sad reality. Now, I will say, with this particular one, it is technically dealing with tough subjects. There's like very difficult subject matters that it's getting into. The tagline here with this particular point in the trailer that they have says, a 3D adventure exposing the darkness of modern times. Potentially it could be dealing with very difficult subjects with young looking characters. That whole thing is there as well. But this is all getting to one bigger point here. What is being repeated through every single one of these companies? Communication is difficult with Steam. they're having troubles with Steam. Steam is giving them higher standards to have to go by. Because of their characters and what they look like, because of the art style of these creators, they're given stricter rules that aren't applying to Western developers. We see plenty of stuff on the site of Steam that is questionable, mature, etc., etc. But for some reason, Japanese developers, no, hold on, let me look at that again. It's all building up this idea that it's making Steam feel like a platform that doesn't welcome them. Enough that all these creators are saying, you guys don't like us. Do you guys not want our games? The gamers want our games. Why are you guys being so strict on us? There's articles and there's discussions happening right now between different journalists and different developers. Steam doesn't want our content anymore, even though the fans want it. It's quickly turning Steam to a platform that is very anti-Japan. And that, again, is sort of what is depressing to a lot of creators in Japan. I said once before, a long time ago, during the whole situation with the creator of Sengoku Kagura, talking about PlayStation specifically, and how he wanted it to be on the console, that way it sold well. At the time, I was saying, dude, put everything on PC. But I can't say that anymore because, again, the platform that's going to be selling the most units from is going to be Steam. As much as I do love all these other platforms that have more uncensored content in it, or where you get your patches for uncensorship, I do love those platforms, but I do acknowledge that for a company to make money, they have to sell it on Steam, because that's where the marketplace is. It's sort of like a bottleneck to force everybody to come to see your product, rather than it just be this scattershot of different websites that you will never know about unless somebody tells you specifically go there and gives you that direct link to go to it. Steam eventually is going to have to draw that line. Eventually Steam, unless they want their platform to be very homogenized to just, shooters and main platformers and whatnot from the big Sony corporations or Microsoft or somebody that's able to literally tell Visa and MasterCard, no, you're not going to block our game. If you don't want your platform to just become those main titles, you're going to have to create some sort of system or at least put your foot down at some point. I don't think it's going to happen though. I really don't. I think this has sort of been decided at this point. They are going to be very careful about what they have on their platform. My only hope is that with this video specifically, is that some sort of awareness comes to the forefront that there seems to be somebody working with the review processes at Steam that is treating these particular games with some sort of prejudice. Or at least there's some signs of a horrible lack of communication between the developers and what is expected by Steam. But anyways, just want to get on here and mention this. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and want to support more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, you'll take care.